Today, I'm with Richard Rucker, the author of Trump, Deceitful, Despicable, Desperate: Why Donald Trump Remains the Greatest Threat to America in the Past 250 Years. Welcome to this interview, Richard. I'm really excited to be asking you a bunch of questions. But before we get into those questions, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your background as an author?
Well, I'd be happy to. I was born and raised in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. That's the geographic center of Tennessee. Attended the public schools there, went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I graduated with a law degree. I practiced law with my father and served as judge on the Tennessee Claims Commission. I also served as president of the local bar association. I was appointed to the Board of Law Examiners. I was involved in various civic activities and served as risk manager for the legal department for the city of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I also worked in several political campaigns, initially with my father, and then later on my own. And I've also served as an elder in two Presbyterian churches. In all of this, writing was a major component of what I did.
Well, it seems like you have an extensive background in politics. What inspired you to write Trump, Deceitful, Despicable, Desperate?
Well, my father, State Senator John R. Rucker, he's now passed away, inspired me to take an interest in government when I was young. And I inevitably got involved in politics because that is an essential part of the American government. I learned to admire the great leaders of the past, such as Franklin Roosevelt and Senator Everett Dirksen, and be appalled at the misbehavior in office of those scoundrels such as Tennessee's Governor Ray Blanton and President Richard Nixon. However, Trump's time in office, to me, has been accompanied by so much incompetence, ineptitude, and infamy that it's hard to imagine that anyone could be worse than he has been.
Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Trump is unmatched in telling falsehoods and indifference to the health of American citizens, and in his eagerness to acquire political power that he can turn into dictatorial power. Those attitudes of his and the way he has behaved in office impelled me into getting out something that would challenge the falsity that he keeps submitting and bring out the truth that people can read for themselves and can also follow the sources of the truth so that they can see for themselves the true nature of that man.
Now, Mr. Rucker, your book's title is quite bold and provocative. What inspired you to write such a strong condemnation of Donald Trump's presidency?
Trump himself was the main inspiration. He has taken a point of view that he knows what's best, and that is without knowing anything about the problems that he's trying to claim that he's solving. This was probably best demonstrated in the way that he handled the COVID epidemic. He knew nothing. He claimed he knew everything and actually challenged the scientists that knew far better than he did exactly what was going on and tried to help America, and ran into nothing but a stone wall of grief, trouble, and despair from Trump himself, who should have been working with them and leading America into their solutions and into their recommended treatment.
How do you define the terms deceitful, despicable, and desperate as they apply to Donald Trump's behavior and leadership style?
Well, deceitful is straightforward. It is his method of lying even when it's unnecessary. He demonstrated the classic despicable behavior in his trying to tell Dr. Fauci and other doctors and scientists what to say about the COVID epidemic. And it's his efforts to try and get his criminal charges delayed by having his lawyers actually misbehave in the courtroom. displaying a man that is absolutely desperate to avoid well-deserved consequences for his criminal behavior.
In your view, what distinguishes Donald Trump as a threat to America above other figures in the past 250 years of its history?
There seems to be no limit to his malicious incompetence and his vindictive desires. He trashes everything he touches, literally or figuratively.
Critics might argue that labeling Trump in such extreme terms could alienate readers who support him. How do you hope to engage readers who hold differing political views?
Well, the best way I think I can say that or answer that is to tell you about a lady that told me that she knew that Trump was a terrible liar and that he did not seem to know what he was doing, but we just couldn't let an egg-sucking liberal become president again. It's not possible to engage in that kind of, well, magma head in a MAGA hat thinking, which admits all of Trump's faults, but can't criticize specifically anything that's wrong with him. Instead, I hope to energize Trump opponents and educate them in how to challenge these types with the truth.
Given the polarized nature of American politics, how do you hope your book will contribute to constructive dialogue about the challenges facing the nation?
Well, taking the lady in the preceding answer as an example, the best approach I can think of would be to ask her politely, considering Trump's faults, what makes you say what you say? Thereby trying to shift her into thinking about facts instead of thinking about just, well, opinions. She can cite from my book with the truth, along with the source of the truth. And that is something that will be hard to refute and just might change her mind, although her mind is the sort that doesn't change. But it does mean that anyone else listening is going to have the opportunity to hear the truth and know where to go find the truth and can thereby convince themselves.
Now, some may argue that Trump's presidency also had positive impacts, such as economic growth and foreign policy initiatives. How do you balance these achievements with your portrayal of him as a threat?
In dealing with the specific point of economic growth, you must be aware of the economic cycles that persist in occurring, no matter who's the president or when they become president. Trump left a stagnant economic situation when he left office, and a review of the economic growth since then has been attributable in Democratic policies under Joe Biden.
Now,
regarding foreign policy initiatives, Trump's current announcement to refuse to help NATO and sacrifice the European nations to Russia should persuade even the most diehard Republican that Trump doesn't know what he's doing and has no idea what he's talking about.
throughout history, leaders have faced criticism and opposition. In what ways do you believe Trump's presidency stands out in terms of its impact on American democracy and institutions?
Well, the principal reason that Trump's presidency has impacted American democracy in such a negative way is a function of Trump's arrogance and his conceit. Because he believes he's the smartest one around, he is unwilling to listen to differing points of view and really is psychologically incapable of thinking in terms that he might be wrong. He therefore surrounds himself with only those who are subservient to him. Because there are no contrary views, there is nothing to improve the lack of thought that Trump brings to the table on any issue.
What do you hope readers will take away from your book, particularly those who may have differing political viewpoints?
Like the proverbial story of the emperor's new clothes, I hope readers will realize that I am playing the role of the little boy in the story who cried out, and woke up everybody else to the truth that the emperor had no clothes on. I hope they will see from the truth in my book that Trump has no wisdom that would justify electing him as president again.
In your view, what are the most effective ways for American citizens to address the challenges you outline in your book and mitigate the threats posed by Trump's leadership?
First and foremost, remember to vote for Democrats. They are willing and know how to work together to pass beneficial legislation. Second, obtain a copy of my book and remember the facts of the various examples of Trump's follies and be ready to cite them as reasons why Joe Biden should be reelected.
What advice would you give a new writer, someone just starting out?
The first thing to do is to have a friend who will read the drafts of your book and will peck away at the deficiencies and the weaknesses until you finally realize that they need to be corrected. These friends are hard to keep, so make sure that when you find one, you do everything you can to keep that sort of person on your side. The second thing to do is very important, and that is to get a good editor and listen to the editor.
I like your advice. Where can readers purchase your books?
Well, they are available in softback from Bookmark Alliance, and then are available in both softback and ebook from Kindle.
And lastly, could you elaborate on your partnership with Bookmark Alliance and how this collaboration has shaped your experience in the realm of publishing?
I'd be delighted to. This has been both a wonderful and an eye-opening experience on my part. Prior to working with Bookmark Alliance, I had no idea how helpful publishers could be. I have deeply appreciated both the encouragement and the suggestions that both the leadership and the staff have provided to me.
Well, thank you for that feedback, Richard. It's certainly been a pleasure and interesting discussion with you today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The pleasure has been all mine.